Many farmers across the HKS region are facing declining soil fertility and erosion. A holistic approach that incorporates multiple interventions is required to meet these challenges in the long run. Composting will often be part of such a strategy. It is simple, effective and affordable and has been practiced by farmers since millennia. Composting is the practice of turning different kinds of biomass into a high-value soil enhancer that can sustainably enhance crop production. We will briefly introduce you to the basic principles of composting, which will help you make your own compost for the first time or improve your existing composting skills. Once you have understood the basics of composting, you can learn how to implement different composting methods through our instructional video series linked in the video description. Let us first briefly discuss why should we compost. Compost has numerous positive effects on physical, chemical and biological properties of soil. Applying compost to soil typically results in higher and more stable productivity and quality of crops. Compost adds nutrients to the soil and helps in retaining them. It improves the soil structure and health by adding organic matter and aids the soil in retaining moisture. Compost attracts beneficial organisms and reduces the need for pesticides and fertilizers. Finally, compost reduces the potential for soil erosion and sequesters carbon. In areas of the HKS where the soil is depleted, erosion is prevalent and the transportation of fertilizers is costly, composting can offer a sustainable and cost-effective solution for plant nutrient management. Let's now discuss how to successfully compost. There are 5 main factors that need to be controlled to achieve optimum results while composting. They are biomass type, airflow, particle size, moisture content and temperature. Let's have a look at the type of biomass used. Composting requires a balance of 2 types of organic materials, green and brown. In general, materials that are green and moist tend to be high in nitrogen, while those that are brown and dry tend to be high in carbon. Green materials such as grass clippings, plant cuttings, and fruit and vegetable scraps quickly decompose, whereas brown materials such as leaves, wood chips, sawdust, and shredded paper are relatively slow to decompose. Theoretically, the ideal ratio for composting is approximately 30 parts of carbon to 1 part of nitrogen. Practically, you can approximate this ratio by using 2 parts of brown material to 1 part of green material. Finding the best ratio will depend on the type of biomass you use. You can adjust the ratios used based on your composting experience. If your pile contains too much brown material, decomposition will be slow. If it contains too much green material, it may become smelly. The second factor determining your composting success is air supply, also referred to as aeration. While some composting processes do not require oxygen, oxygen-driven composting processes are generally faster. There are various ways of aerating a compost pile, including turning it, placing it on a series of pipes or including bulking materials such as wood chips and shredded newspaper. Care must be taken, however, not to provide too much oxygen, which can dry out the pile and impede the composting process. The third factor is the size of the composted material. Grinding and shredding the biomass increases the surface area on which the microorganisms can feed, resulting in faster composting. Smaller particles also produce a more homogeneous compost mixture and improve the insulation of the pile, helping maintain optimum temperatures. If the particles are too small, they might prevent the air from flowing freely through the pile. The fourth factor is moisture. The microorganisms driving the composting process require adequate moisture levels to survive and work efficiently. Moisture levels should be maintained between 40 to 65%, which usually means that materials are thoroughly moist but not drenched. As a rule of thumb, the materials are too wet if water can be squeezed out of a handful and too dry if the handful does not feel moist to the touch. While the composting materials contain some levels of moisture, you may need to add water. The final main factor driving composting process is temperature. Temperatures between 30 to 60 degrees Celsius promote rapid composting and destroy pathogens and weed seeds. Temperatures outside of this range can slow down or completely halt the composting process and can lead to other undesirable outcomes including rotting and spontaneous combustion. Your compost pile should not measure less than 1 meter in every direction, meaning height, width and length, as smaller piles than that tend not to generate sufficient heat. In colder climates, piles need to be larger to retain heat. In addition to pile size, controlling the 4 factors mentioned earlier will bring about the ideal pile temperature. Now that you have understood the basic principles of composting, go and try them out. You can refer to our instructional videos on different composting methods, including basket composting and vermicomposting, for further guidance on specific methods. Links are in the video description below.